A Brock a talk, a talking Brock, a Brock talk. It's a Brock a talk. It's Brock talk. Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to Brock Talk. I am your host, BigHatBrock, and today's subject is going to be a little more on the serious side. I like to do a mix of fun stuff and then some serious stuff and then back to fun stuff, as I've said before. We're currently in the month of July. I'm actually recording this very, very late June. I wanted to get this out in June, but it just didn't end up working out. But I still wanted to make it June. Among many other things, one important part of June is Men's Mental Health Month, and I wanted to kind of just share a few thoughts on mental health and some of my struggles and just a few side things I think people don't talk about enough, or certain parts that just people don't really talk about. Yeah, and it's July. I want to do it in June, but it just didn't quite work out. But I still want to make it. I think it's still important to talk about this. And hey, why only leave it to 1 month, right? Before we get into the specific details per se, let's go back to when this first started. I'd say my true realization of mental health. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Started back when I was in 8th grade. So it was near the end of 8th grade, so probably 2011, 2012. That was when I first really started to figure out what stress is like, what real stress feels like. Well, real to me. What stress would be like, what depression would be like. And then it's kind of just since 2012, it's been kind of an off and on thing for me. I don't know how else to describe it. I just say thing. Hopefully that's all right. Not super proper, but there you go. The first thing I want to just get into is that one important detail people share is hey, share your feelings, tell people what you're thinking. If you've got something on your mind, share it. And I do think that's good advice. A lot of times, if I just share something with someone, I oftentimes afterwards I'm like, okay, I feel better. I got that off my chest, got to vent about that. All right, we're good now. One frustrating thing that I've encountered personally is that so people say, hey, share your feelings. Okay, that's great, but sometimes I feel like when I really get into the I've really struggled mentally. I've had a lot of struggles mentally, and sometimes it feels like when I try to tell someone, hey, I'm struggling, I turn into kind of like a ticking time bomb or like a hot potato. That's how I felt sometimes, because I'll go to person A and I'll say, hey, person A, I'm struggling. I've got some problems going on, and then person A will be like, okay, that's great, thanks for telling me. But really, you should go talk to person B. So I go, okay, cool, thank you. So then I go to person B, and then person B is like, okay, really, that's great, thanks for sharing, but really you need to see person C. And again, I'm like, okay. And then person C, same thing, it just feels like it's this never-ending, I'm just getting handed off to the next person, this person to deal with. Or rather, it just feels like it's oh man, talk to this person, and it just feels like it never ends. Also, sometimes when I go to talk to people, so I've faced a lot of invalidation in my life. I've faced a lot of people just really dismissing what is happening to me. So every time I go to share, there's this kind of there's this pause, or there's something holding me back, and it's the thought of facing this invalidation again. And I don't know if trained myself is the right word, but a lot of times I'm oh, what, this isn't that big a deal. I shouldn't tell somebody this. They're just gonna say this isn't that big of a deal, and that's no fault. There are some people in my life who are really great people. It's not their fault. It's just something I need to get over, and I need to be better about standing on how I feel, and being no, this is serious. And if someone isn't listening, I guess, like I said, I just have to go to the next person and hope they'll be a little more receptive. Another issue I've had is that I'll go to tell somebody something and we'll have like an hour long conversation, but I will only have been talking for maybe 10 minutes, and the other person is kind of just going on this big long story of, hey, you got to do this and you got to do this and all this. And in my head, I'm like, well, I haven't even said anything. Also, like, you really don't know my situation, so you're giving information that you don't even know it fits. You kind of just manipulated it to what you want. So, like, I encourage anybody, if someone is trying to open up to you, just do your best to really listen. Like, be quiet and listen. Like, make sure that if you offer advice or when you respond, you aren't making up your own part of the story. And one thing I have to take responsibility for too is I remember somebody was telling me something and I listened for a little bit and I said, well, you will not believe what happened to me. And immediately I started going off on my own tangent. And then like a few days later, I realized like, oh man, like they were trying to talk and I just told this big long story about nothing. Like I should have listened to them. I shouldn't have, I made this about myself. And a lot of times I do like when I like having shared experiences. Sometimes like something to relate to. I do think that's good. I just have to be careful about. We just all have to be careful about not making it 100% about ourselves, and just having this making sure it's shared. Right, make sure people share equal parts. Another issue I've run into, and I brought this up on the podcast previously, is that I'm not the best speaker. And a lot of times I'll start a sentence without knowing where it's going to go, or I'll have this thought, but I don't know how to articulate it or really put it in a way that people understand. So a lot of times I'm just kind of talking, not sure where I'm going, and then we don't really get anywhere because it's hard for me to articulate that problem. That's something more on my end, I think I need to figure out. But then again, it kind of goes back to, it also plays with what I said earlier of like, I'll try to tell somebody something and then it seems like I'm just talking about nothing, and then they're like, well, that doesn't really seem like that big of a deal. And so again, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess if I can't describe what's wrong, or if I can't put what's wrong into words, then is it really that bad? That's something I deal with a lot. And then I think if someone, the saying like, if walk a mile in someone else's shoes or whatever, like I think if someone saw my whole story, they would sympathize with me or understand me, or at least I hope they would. But sometimes I think of like the problems I'm going through, and I think of like, man, why am I so upset? Like, there's much worse things happening in the world. Again, what I'm going through is annoying, but I have a lot of great stuff. I just need a better perspective. I can never. This goes back to a previous episode I said before about I wish I could see my life from another perspective, because I feel like there are a lot of good things. I just have a hard time focusing on those good things. And I'm not saying this to brag, but I do think like I have a lot of good things and I have a good life, but there's just things I'm taking for granted, and I wish I could see those better and understand like my situation better. So as far as the mental health goes, I read this thing on the internet many years ago that was like, someone saw life as an ocean. Now I cannot remember, it was a long time ago I read this article comparing life to an ocean. And I don't remember exactly what they said. I think it was like, sometimes the water's high, sometimes the water's low, sometimes you're drowning for a bit. I kind of wanted to, and maybe this is what the article was, but I kind of wanted to put my own little twist on it. I always try to be somebody who's doing something. I don't want to be like complaining that the trash is full. Like, oh, the trash is so full, there's no room for trash. Why won't someone do something about this trash? Like, I want to be like, no, I'm going to take the trash out and put a new bag in. Like, things like that. Like, I don't, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen kind of thing. Like, I try my best not to sit around and complain when instead of complaining, I could be doing something. And so when I think of this analogy or this comparison to the ocean, if I was in the ocean, and please just bear with me, maybe this doesn't make fully sense, but I'm going to say it anyway. If I'm like stuck in the ocean and I had the tools to do stuff, but like if I sat there and I just complained about the waves, I was like, man, I'm sick of these waves. Why won't these waves stop? Well, the waves aren't going to stop. Like, it's a sad reality, but whatever our struggles in life, I kind of see as like the waves. Like, I wish there weren't any more, but they're going to keep happening. So it's like, okay, well, what do I do about these waves? Well, if I sit here and complain, nothing's really going to get better. Like, I got to at least try. So I can't stop the waves from coming. So if I have the tools, I'm going to try to build a boat or something to make taking the waves better, so to speak. That rather than just getting hit by wave after wave and laying here complaining, doing nothing, I'm like, well, I'm at least going to try to make a boat and just sail, I guess. Like AWOL Nation, right? Sail, the song. So that's the first thing I encourage is like, it's, and I've been there, like it is easy to, I've been there just like stuck in a pit of depression and sadness and anger. And I'm just like, man, this is just every day with this. It is just a never ending wave after wave of bullshit. Like, why am I even putting up with this? But then I try to remind myself like, well, hey, you're the person that wants to change stuff, or, always wants to make sure, instead of just complaining, you're actually trying to fix it. Because a lot of times when we fix it, or at least we're thinking of ways, how can we make this better? That is a much better mindset to be in, rather than these waves are just never going to end. I've also been there where people are trying to help me and I'm just not listening. And that's not very fair to them, and it's not very fair to myself. And so a lot of times I just say, like, just try it, or just try to make it better. Try to get in that mindset of like, it's corny, or it's, I don't know the word for it, but be like, hey, like, okay, things will get better. And I'm kind of sitting here like, yeah, are they? Like, how do you know that? Like, you don't know that. There's still going to be more waves from the ocean. I do find that if I am in a more proactive mindset, or just like, hey, sometimes you got to roll with the punches, or sometimes you got to just let the waves crash onto you. It's not very fun, but it just happens. And that's not great. Like, again, I wish it wasn't that way, but the best thing I can do is, okay, is there a way I can fix this, or can I make it manageable? Another thing I thought of that I was going to say earlier, is that sometimes when we have to find a way to figure out between, is this a conversation where I should fix something, or should I just let the person vent? Because sometimes it's like, hey, I just got to get this off my chest. After I talk about it, I'm doing pretty well. And then sometimes I'm like, hey, do you have any advice for me? Like, is there anything you can do to help me or something? Because I think it's okay just to listen and to let someone vent. And, not all the time can something be fixed, or is there specifically something that can be fixed? It's okay to just let the person talk, do their thing, and then, I don't know, shake hands, crack a couple of Coca-Colas open, and have a good afternoon. And I feel like a lot of times I'll really share some serious information, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm good, I'm relaxed now, like I'm feeling better. And then the next day I don't even really think about it, but then people are like, hey, they're texting me like, hey, are you okay? Are you all right? Like, what's going on? But then I'm like, oh, I really just had to have one crash out, I guess, and then the next day I'm fine. And so then it feels like, hey, you can't tell me this serious information and then the next day be fine. It's like, sometimes that's how I am. And I also have to take responsibility for putting off my problems. So if we picture a room filling up with water, what I would do is, if I'm sitting in this room filling up with water, like there's a little bit of water on the ground, I'm like, oh, whatever, like it'll be fine. And then it gets up to like my ankles, and I'm like, okay, well, I can still walk, so no big deal. Everyone has their struggles. I'm going to keep doing my thing. The water's going up and up and up. One of my, I don't know if flaws is the right way to describe it, but I have to be more conscious of this, or proactive, is a lot of times I wait until the water gets to here. Like, I'm sitting in this room filling up with water. It's up to my neck, up to, I'm about to drown. And at that point, I'm finally like, oh, maybe I should do something about this room filling up with water. And that, I mean, I need to be better about it, but then I just, like I said, there's been so much invalidation I've faced. There's been so much, dismissing of how I feel that's what I think. I'm like, well, this room filling up with water really isn't that big of a deal. But I just need to know who the right people are to talk to, or who's going to be receptive to that. So I would say, like, again, I want this to be, I like to share information that's maybe not the happiest, but sometimes that happens. But I also want to add like a positive side to it. And so like try to stay in a positive mindset of like little things like, what can I do to make this better? Or I heard also something online that if someone just didn't have the energy to eat, which I mean, I've been there. It's like sometimes like if you don't even have the energy to make a sandwich, like just eat the ingredients, which I kind of think is fun in a way of like, well, you don't have to put all the stuff on the bread and the mayo and all this. It's like maybe just eat a piece of cheese and then eat a piece of turkey and stuff. And so I think it's okay to like take it one step at a time. I read in the Star Wars books I brought up in a few videos ago. There's a part I always think of where the leader of the group of clones says, like, sometimes we're focused on what we're going to do a few years from now. And then it's like, sometimes we're focused on what we're going to do a few months from now. And he was like, whatever works. Like, sometimes it's years, sometimes it's months. Sometimes you're just focused on taking that next step, like literal steps after steps. And that's a mindset I try to have of like, okay, things are really bad right now and I'm really unhappy, but like, let's just, okay, one foot after the other, 1 foot after the other. Let's just keep moving. Any motion is better than no motion. And so this next bit I wanted to bring up, this is another topic I can't quite articulate. I wanted to bring up medication, and I've never been on any kind of antidepressants or anxiety medicine. And I at first was like very against it. I was like, okay, well, this is like, I'm not going to be a real person. This, like, I will see the world through a glass. Like it just feels like it doesn't feel right. But then that, in a way, on my own thinking, is kind of hypocritical, because if I have a headache, like I've suffered like many migraines throughout my life, it's kind of been like a reoccurring thing. But if my head hurts, like, I'm not gonna think twice about taking ibuprofen. Like, I take it. Like, I'm like, get rid of this pain in my head. Or like, if I'm sick, if I have a sore throat, I'm gonna take medicine. But for some reason, it's like, well, if I am anxious, like, or this, like, oh, well, take this and you won't feel that way. And for some reason, I'm like, well, no, it's more important than that. Like, it's more than just a chemical imbalance or something. But as I've gotten a little older, I'm kind of like, well, why don't I just give it a try? Like, we'll see how it goes. And if I'm not feeling anxious, then that would be nice. But again, to be fair, this is another thing I don't quite have an ending for, but I encourage people to at least try it. And it's so frustrating. Like, it would be nice if the world is full of understanding people who were patient, but that's not what the world is. And sorry if that's like a really cynical, negative bit, but it's like I feel like, and part of this is, could be anxiety or, again, a negative mindset, but I'm like, oh, well, let's try this, and then it doesn't work. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Like, we'll just go to the next thing. Like, it just feels like every time, like, if it doesn't work on the first time, immediately I'm like, this person's going to lose patience with me, and they're going to try to get me out of here. They're going to try to pass me on to person C, and then person D, and then F, all that. And E, I forgot about E. Don't worry about E. Another thing I just thought of, I do feel like there's a lot of good advice, but it's just presented in it seems so corny, or it seems very like fake, like this is just the statement everybody says when they're going through a hard time. But sometimes I try to look past that of like, people say, hey, like, anybody who's going through a hard time, like, one good year can change your life, or, keep trying, keep going. And sometimes it's like, well, what am I trying, or where am I going, or what, like, Like, you don't know what's happening to me, so how can you tell me that? But sometimes I just try to filter out if I hear a bit of advice, instead of being angry, I'm trying to just be like, okay, that doesn't quite apply to me. That's all right. And I do think a lot of people have good intentions. I do think a lot of people are trying to help. It's just also on me to be receptive to that, or at least like, hey, what this person said doesn't quite apply to me, so that's all right. But I just got to keep trying. I also heard something about how someone shared something online about how if you can't have a good day, just have a day. And like that some people were feeling stressed out because if I said, not me specifically, but let's just use me as an example. I say to someone like, hey, have a good day. And then that person doesn't have a good day. And then they're like, oh man, like they're upset. Like, I didn't have a good day. Like, that person told me to have a good day or something. And typically I just say things like that. Like, to me, that's just a positive thing to say. Like, it's just a kind thing to say. If someone doesn't have a good day, I'm sorry, but I'm saying that just as like a nice, kind thing. Okay, I've just thought of two more things. We're already getting close to the end of this episode, so I don't want this to go too long. I like the kind of a little bit over 30-minute episodes. So I have been to therapy a few times, and I don't know if this is, I don't know, like, I mean, this might be equal parts. Like, I gotta take responsibility, but also like, and this is so corny to say, but I do think that like the school system had a little bit to do with this. Of sometimes therapy, or not just therapy, but other adult interactions, like, I don't know, a doctor's appointment or something. Sometimes it turns into not so much what the real answer is, but I'm just trying to say the right answer. Like, whether or not I'll actually do it, that's on me. But like, people be like, hey, what are some things you do to cope with stress? And I'm like, I go for a walk, which I do, but I just need to be better about telling the truth. Or like, people be like, oh yeah, I bet this is going better. And like I said before, like, don't, like, let the person tell the story and react like that. Don't immediately start like, oh, you don't think this way, or you don't do this, or it's hard to do that. And it's like, if the person says that, then yeah, but don't like I said, like, a lot of times, because I have trouble speaking, I will like rehearse what I'm gonna say. Somebody asked me a question and I was talking, and then they're like, well, yeah, and you weren't walking around like thinking of these things all day, or rehearsing, or they didn't say rehearsing, but thinking of these conversations. And then I kind of got, and I should have spoke up more. And I was like, oh yeah, but I wanted to be like, yeah, actually I do. Like, you don't know that, you just, accident. Like, some people are, when it comes to manipulation, like, they're bad. Like, they actually are a manipulator, or they do it on accident, which I think was this case. It's like, you just got to be better about making sure what you're saying goes along with what the other person's saying. This one kind of went off the rails, I just realized. But we'll move on to my last topic here. Staying in the realm of mental health and sharing our feelings. Like, do not, under any circumstance, and then this is hypocritical because I've done it too, but I just want to say it. Like, do not let social media control your happiness, okay, or your mood or whatever. Like, a lot of times I'll scroll through social media and I'm just like, man, everybody's having fun except for me. Or I'm like, this person's life is so great. My refrigerator just turned on in the background. Hopefully that isn't too loud. Maybe someday I'll have an actual studio and we don't have to worry about the fridge. Anyway, but just like, I've been on social media comparing my life to other people and comparing this, and I'm look back and I'm like, man, why didn't I just pay attention here? Or why didn't I just work harder at this? And then sometimes I just have to take a step back and be like, look, that me and this person have lived completely different lives. There's a completely million different set of circumstances that could happen. It's just not worth comparing, okay? Like, I got to focus on what I have. I got to focus on what I'm doing, or like, rather than be angry at this person because of the life they live. Or, some people, have lived this really fortunate life, and I've been here like, oh, I would have loved to have that. Oh, this person's complaining, but they they don't have this. And so I just encourage everybody. And again, I've been there, but just don't let it affect you, or try as best as you can. I think there is some fun stuff on social media. I think there's a little bit of fun to be had, but I would say like a majority of it is fake. Like, even like there's some people who are like, these are the keys to happiness. It's like, okay, those people, they like just made that up, or they aren't really trying to make you happy or anything like that. I think everybody has their own way of doing it. Just, as long as you aren't hurting anybody against your will. Well, yeah, as long as you aren't hurting anybody against your will or their will, and your actions aren't, we have to try to identify those self-destructive actions, which, I mean, that can be hard too. That's a hard conversation of like the realization of like, oh, like I got to do some pretty significant changes to get out of this. So to anybody, again, here we go. Like, it sounds corny, but I want to say it. Like, to anybody going through a tough time, like, hey, like, leave a comment in the comment section. Like, tell us what's going on. Maybe tell your friend. Also, to the friend that's supposed to listen, make sure you're listening. Make sure you aren't manipulating the conversation to what you want. Make sure you're really actually listening and helping that person. And make sure you're honest and truthful. I feel like a lot of times I'll share something I'm nervous about, or just, not feeling great about. But after I share it, like I've said before, like I typically feel better. There's something like, okay, like I got this off my chest. And sometimes I just need to say something. Every once in a while I've said something, and I have to be like, okay, yeah, maybe that really actually wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I've said some stupid things, but I'm like, okay, now it's off my chest. Like, now I've learned from it. I'm not just sitting here with it, bottled up inside, like causing all these problems. I also want to say, I keep thinking of this typical Brock talk. Like, I'm kind of like, okay, let's end the show. And then I think of another thing I want to say. I would also recommend, and this is not an easy thing to do, but again, if I'm going through a depression, or if I'm really upset, I try to break down like things in my life. So like recently, why did I change my job? Like, this was almost a year ago. I was like, well, I wasn't very happy living at my dad's, so I moved out. And then I was like, okay, now life isn't about material things, but I really like driving, and I was really worried about the car I had because it wasn't in the best condition. But then I got a new car. Well, not a new car, but a different one. And I was like, okay, this is nice. Like, I can get places. I like going places. And I just felt like, okay, there's all these things I've changed, and I'm still unhappy. The one thing I haven't changed yet is my job. So I thought, okay, well, maybe that's the next step. And so try to really just think like, or is it your diet? I mean, like, that's one thing I need to be better about, but I just, keep making dumb decisions of eating junk food. But then that's like, hey, maybe it would be better to eat a little healthier. Actually, not maybe, it would be. There's no maybe about it. So it's just so easy. Like, when I'm negative, or when I'm going through this and someone says, hey, have you tried doing this? Immediately I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, everything is bad. Like, you're just making this up. So I need to be more receptive of, if somebody says, hey, have you tried doing this? Like, I felt better after I did this. And then I need to at least try it. And then if it didn't work out, instead of being like, see, like, you're right or you're wrong, like, everything is unhappy, everything is bad. I just need to be like, okay, hey, that didn't work out, but let's see if we can find something else that'll maybe make us feel better. So there you go. I'm going to end the video off there. I hope I said, that's some stuff I wanted to share. I'm hopeful that somehow maybe this is good advice. Maybe you feel better at the end of this. But just be a good person. Be kind. I do think, like, saying hello and just being a general good person is helpful. Okay, like, I know it's kind of cheesy to be like, started, like, at my high school, they were like, start a chain reaction by being kind. And in high school, I'm like rolling my eyes, like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But now that I'm older, I am like, just be kind to everybody. Say please and thank you. Tell someone, hey, have a good day. Or if they have a cool shirt on, be like, hey, that's a cool shirt, whatever. Like, and then to the people, like, if someone gives you a compliment, just say thanks. Or if you don't like it, you can always just say thanks and pretend to be interested and then move on with your life. So that, just don't hold on to hate, okay? If a movie comes out and it's bad, don't let it ruin your entire mood, because I did that many times, and I'm like, okay, it's alright to be like, oh, I didn't like it, but don't have that be the whole source of my happiness. Like, there's plenty of other things to be happy about. But yeah, this has been Big Hat Brock. To anybody going through a struggle, message me on here. I'll try to respond to the comments, anything. It's tough. It's not a great deal, but we got to do it. We got to figure out a way to do it. So nothing has stopped us yet, so I guess we're going to keep going. So anyway, I'm laughing because I thought of this quote from Jesse Ventura, which at first I thought was pretty morbid, but I kind of like it. I don't know. This one might be a little intense, but he says die first and then quit. Like, don't quit and then die. Like, and among many other things that man has said. Anyway, I don't know. Play your favorite video game. Read your favorite book. I hope you have an incredible day, night, whatever. And yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, please be kind to yourself, and please be kind to yourself, and please be kind to the people you're with. And sometimes the best way to deal with a hornet's nest is to get out of a hornet's nest. So if you're in a bad situation, sometimes the best thing to do is to get out of it. So, and I know it's not easy, but I'm just trying to help. So, all right, everyone, have a good day. All that. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks everybody for watching, and have a good one.